Okay, so today we're at Kinson. That's right over on the east side of Dorset. And I say we, it's just me, because Jean lives miles away. And this is too far for her to come, really. It's not in the middle at all. It's right over on the east side of Dorset. That's a very spooky. I think these are spooky, these statues. What we've come here for is to have a look at the life of Isaac Gulliver. Now, Isaac Gulliver was a notorious smuggler in these parts and a lot of other parts as well, because he ran the smuggling trade down here all along the Dorset coast, and as far down as Devon. It is a beautiful church though, St Andrew's. Very old, although it's been remodelled a few times. Those pesky Victorians mucking about with things. But, oh, there's a grave there that's fell in. That's spooky. Anyways, we're going to go. So anyway, Isaac Gulliver was born in Semmington in, I think it's Wiltshire, and he ran a lot of his operations from here. Lots. He even had a shop in Kinson to try and pretend he was a legitimate businessman. Anyway, his wife, she was Elizabeth Beale, and she also was the daughter of a smuggler. And this is his daughter's, well, say his daughter's grave. That's Elizabeth. That's Gulliver's daughter. And she lived over at Pelham's, that we saw, or that we're going to see in a bit. And she lived in that house. Her father owned that land, and he did live there himself, but on a different house. But it's said they used to store contraband in this church, in the tower. It's a very short tower, and they sold 5 of the bells back in the day, which seems a little bit strange. Make room for more storage, maybe. Now, this is a grave of a smuggler, Robert Trotman, and he was barbarously murdered, according to his headstone, on near Poole Quay, when he was loading tea. What it says underneath that bit is hard to read now, but what it did say is, "A little tea, one leaf I did not steal. For guiltless bloodshed I to God appeal. Put tea in one scale, human blood in t'other, and think what 'tis to slay thy harmless brother." I'm not sure if he was exactly harmless, but it's a good thing. I mean, it seems whoever wrote that was not very happy at all that he'd been murdered, as they called it, murdered. But I imagine he wasn't the only one who was killed. or indeed did the killing, although it's said that Gulliver himself never killed a man at all ever in his smuggling career. So whether that's true or not is anyone's guess. As we come around the front, you'll see some more old graves, but also a tomb there which belonged to William Oakley. It said he was a real person, and that is his grave, but it said that they stored smuggled goods in there, but they think it's since been disproved. Gulliver owned 600 acres of land in Kinson, which is quite a lot, but not everything that he owned. He owned swathes of land all over Dorset, Wiltshire, Somerset, all over the place. And when he died, he left £66,000. And he died in 1822, which means in today's money would probably amount to around between 6 and 7 million. So a lot of money. So he tried to go legit, as I say, and he had a shop, and it was a front really for his smuggling, because what he sold was remarkably cheaper than everywhere else. On one occasion it's said that Isaac Gulliver, in a house that he owned near here actually, he owned several houses near here because they were constantly on the move for obvious reasons. It said that he pretended he was dead because the excise men came knocking at the door. So he told, some people say his wife, some people say a housemaid, to say that he was dead. So he covered his face with white powder, flour or chalk or whatever, and then he hid in a coffin that he kept in the house for such occasions, and pretended he was dead. And she was instructed to say that he died from some terrible infectious disease, so that they wouldn't hang around for very long. Anyway, they bought it, and he had to go into hiding for a while. But then soon after that, not that long after that, I think it was I can't remember exactly when, but they were pardoning smugglers as long as they provided men to go into the navy, or they went themselves. Well, Gulliver wasn't going to go himself, so he actually paid 2 men £15 each, which was a considerable amount of money in those days, to go and into the navy for him, and he was pardoned. It's also said that he gave information that the French were plotting to kill the king, George III, at the time, and because of that they were very happy with him indeed, and he could practically do whatever he wanted, so he was free to do as he pleased. So this house in Kinson is Pelham's, which is now like a community place for the people of Kinson. But Elizabeth, Gulliver's daughter, lived here with her husband, as we've seen over in the graveyard there. And he lived on this land, he owned this land, and the house he lived in was demolished. And this is the house the friars built, and where Elizabeth lived with her husband and the family. This is the White Hart pub at Longham, which is not very far from Kinson. And as you can hear, the traffic today is terrible, and it's like this. In fact, I'm going to put the window back up because I can hardly hear myself talking. There we go. And Gulliver owned this pub for 10 years, and obviously he could run his other business through this pub as well, but this would appear like he had a legitimate business, and it was good cover. There's a big lorry. It's really busy today, as we can see, but back in the day it would have been very, very quiet, desolate. Kinson, Longham, all round here would have been nothing between here and the sea, hardly anything, because back then Bournemouth wasn't even dreamt of, let alone built. There would just have been a few huts here and there, and they were probably all in on the smuggling trade anyway. They certainly, most of Kinson was said to have been in the smuggling trade, and the church back there has got many smugglers apparently, and apparently there were tunnels all over this place, especially Kinson. Whether it's true or not, they're not quite sure, because, well, they've all been filled in if they were there. And the pub over the way there, that's the Acorn now, but was called Gulliver's a few years back. But back in Gulliver's day, it was called the Dolphin. I'm going to shut this window because you're not going to hear me. So I've shut the window because you're not going to be able to hear me. And so this, like I say, is what would have been called the Dolphin in Gulliver's time. And probably just that small bit on the front there was the pub, but it was obviously part of the old village, whereas this whole place now is just busy and modern. Apart from the pub, which is the oldest pub in Bournemouth, thought to be built in 1750, but it could be even older than that. This pub is said to be haunted, and somebody was sleeping there one night when they were awoken by the sound of the clinking noise. They got up to investigate and saw the ghost of a man counting coins on a chest, and then he vanished. It's also said that there's been poltergeist activity with snooker pool cues being thrown about and glasses, and you can hear footsteps in the empty places of the pub if it's quiet. So very, very spooky, but then it is quite old. It's certainly old for this part of Dorset because, like I say, Bournemouth would not have been a thing when Gulliver lived here. It would have been just track. Very handy for smuggling there. So this is Wimborne Minster. This is where Gulliver is buried. But yeah, he's not buried here like these people. No, even though he's an ex-smuggler, he's actually buried inside the church. So Wimborne's a lovely little town, very old, really nice. So we've come round to the front of the church now, and up there is the quarterjack. He rings out the time with his bells. I think we can just about see him there. Now we're going to go in the church and see if we're allowed to get a photograph at least of Gulliver's gravestone. So this is Isaac Gulliver's headstone, which they dug up because it was getting very worn. As you can see, you can barely not really make it out. You can make out the Gulliver, just about make out Isaac. It says 1600 and something, which is going to be his, well, I don't know why it says 1600 and something. Maybe it's 1800, not sure. But there's his headstone, or tombstone rather, so it's laid in the floor. But where he's buried is out in the church, in the aisleway there. See the church warden here, and he also gave the church a lot of money, which probably favoured him with an inside burial. So now we're going to go and see the house he lived in when he lived in Wimborne. As I say, it's his final years in Wimborne. So now we're going to have a look, see if we can find that. So here is Isaac's house in Wimborne. There's a plaque on the wall there, and it says about how he was pardoned by the king and became a respectable citizen. He was a banker in the town, and there's the plaque saying Gulliver House. So he became legitimate. Anyway, that's pretty much it for Isaac Gulliver in this particular area. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.